Hi everyone, this is Rochelle with Vrai, and today I'm here with Consuelo Martinez-Quattrocchi. And I did have to cheat and look at my notes because that is a mouthful, but Consuelo is a beautiful soul. She's with Villa Graziella Organic, and she is the managing partner. She has quite the true north story to talk to us today about, and I'm very excited to have you here, Consuelo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you for having me. It's wonderful to see your lovely face, Rochelle, truly.
Thank you. Thank you. And we've known each other for, gosh, has it been maybe 6 years, 5 years, something
5
like
years,
that?
yeah.
We met through a mutual friend at a networking dinner party and shared our stories of being a woman in business, being an entrepreneur, the different marketing things we were going through, different challenges in our businesses, and sharing some best practices amongst women that night, along with some really great food and wine, which I know you're going to talk to us a little bit about. So start us out from whatever beginning point you want to share.
Well, I was born and raised and live on Chicago's North Side, and I come from a culture where enjoying food and wine is very important, to sit down to a table with family and friends. And my experience, my professional experience, is international distribution of consumer products. I was fortunate to live and work in Italy for 10 years and experience the wonderful and really clean food culture. And despite my passion for food and wine, I was really unsure of leaving the safety, if you will, of the corporate world. So I had this passion project to the side that I was always working on, and I really, really enjoyed. And then things changed. In late 2014, I left the international division of a personal care manufacturer in Chicago's West Loop because the parent company was going to outsource all the manufacturing and move the offices to San Francisco. So after 31 years in the corporate world in international sales and distribution, I finally took the leap and I began working on my project, my passion project, full time, which is Villa Graziella Organic. And what this is we partner with small producers in Italy who grow, harvest, and make organic certified products. These are all families, they're small producers who craft food and wine as their ancestors did generations ago. So we have single estate wine, extra virgin olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and Tuscan seasoning blends, all from Italy and all organic certified.
And may I just demonstrate? I know you have some things behind you, but Consuelo was so beautiful in gifting me these ahead of our interview. And I have had this for sure. I know I've had the olive oil. I have sampled her wines, and this balsamic, I cannot wait to dive into. Let me just also mention how beautiful your bottles are. I don't even want to throw them away. This is
packaging. Yeah, we have a really talented people that helped us with the packaging, very creative. But I started this because I was really passionate about this, because I think that great tasting food can also be good for you, and that organic quality is better for us and our environment and doesn't have to cost a fortune. For me, the most gratifying thing, I think, for me was that when people that thought they couldn't drink wine due to allergy symptoms that they were experiencing can enjoy our wines without any kind of side effects. So it's been wonderful.
That is really a topic of conversation for a lot of wine drinkers, and I am one. I often wonder if, those headaches are from the sulfates or whatever else is in them, or the tremendous amount of sugar or whatever they're putting in there to augment the flavor. And so I do recall having a couple glasses of your wine having no after effects and just an amazing flavor. So kudos to you for meeting that need.
I think more than anything, it was really because our partners, they're all small, but they're mighty. And these people really commit to Earth Day 365 days of the year. It's just not one day of the year. So in compliance with EU organic requirements, there's no chemical insecticides or synthetic pesticides that are used in the field or the grove or the vineyard. And what they do is they have these practices, agricultural, if you will, management practices such as composting, cover cropping, regenerative farming for carbon insulation in the soil, that really produces products that are clean, they're healthy, they're vibrant, if they're grapes or olives or herbs and spices. And then to your point, what you were saying about augmenting in production, their production methods use no chemical dyes, no synthetic fragrances, no artificial flavor enhancers. So in the case of the balsamic vinegar, there's no coloring, there's no caramel flavor added, there are no sugars. So it's truly the grapes that have been fermented or cooked down and that are left to age in wood barrels. So all of these practices between the olive oil and the wine and the vinegar, they're all very labor intensive. And they require considerable time and financial commitment. But these are systems that really, again, produce wine that tastes and food that tastes delicious, but also helps the environment. So puts the regenerative, if you will, the organic matter back into the soil, contributes not only to the sustainability of the field or the grove or the vineyard, but also the overall health of the environment and the health of the people that work in that area. So it's really a circle, if you will, that is, it's all about working to produce clean products, but also to take care of the soil. And I always say Mother Earth, because clean soil produces wonderful things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I hope we're recording this in April, so we've just passed Earth Day. And I think that's a really great topic, to be mindful of it ongoing. With COVID, we've all been home, paying more attention to what's growing outside our windows, more attention to I even took up hobbying plants. I have plants all over my house because I feel like I needed to take care of something. Not to mention that wine consumption definitely went up over the last year for me. What keeps you going right now? And just, I guess, what's your true North Star? Like, what energizes you about all of this?
What energizes me is that I think that at least during COVID, I found that we took a step back and we were able to slow down. And so people were gathering. Americans were rediscovering their kitchen because they couldn't go out. So people are cooking more. They're with their families. There's a sense of community about that. And that there's a greater awareness for our overall health. It's not just eating right or being on a diet. There's a greater awareness of our overall health and well-being. I think what's come out of this is a mindfulness of our well-being, and that includes the food that we eat and then also our environment. So for me, it's exciting that people are open to this and mindful of what they're eating.
Yeah, well, and you have a quality product, so I appreciate you bringing that to our kitchens while we try to get creative and be the culinary artist that we always hope to be. But let's talk also about some of the challenges over the last year, but also just as an entrepreneur in the hospitality industry. I know you've talked to me about, there's been a pivot in your distribution.
Yes.
There's also challenges with sales, restaurants being closed, wholesalers maybe not purchasing what you thought they would, or,
Right.
But when you touch hospitality, and especially in food and food manufacturing, you've got supply and demand. Obviously, you've got supply chain issues. You've got the actual making and manufacturing. You have probably had to learn a lot of that on the fly, and over the last year, especially had to pivot quickly. Can you talk about some of those challenges and how you've overcome them? Because I know we've got some people in the audience from the hospitality and restaurant industries. especially in the food world, in my world. My heart just goes out to everybody. And by the way, if you didn't know this, Consuelo, I started this docuseries because of my hospitality roots and feeling such empathy for everyone who touches that. So talk to us a little bit about what you've been through over the whole journey, but especially.
The whole journey, I think so we import directly. So we go direct to the vineyard, to the person that is the team that's doing our olive oil production, the folks that are doing vinegar and spices and whatnot. What ended up happening with COVID was we shifted, and by shifting to meet the needs of our customers, our business improved. So most of our retail customers are small. So what we did was, the first thing we said was, let's reduce our minimums because they were not keeping their stores open. Let's extend our payment terms. Let's offer free delivery. If somebody said, I can only have deliveries in the early morning, leave it at, before I open up the store. So we offered free delivery to that point of sale. And then also, whenever it was viable, online imagery, merchandising support, either in the store or the creative assets that they could use as they were doing direct to consumer themselves. So they shifted from going to being retail to being direct to consumer. And so they were creating their online platforms as well. So in doing that, we said, okay, if you need, instead of doing something in signage in store, we'll provide you imagery that you can put online. For restaurants and bars, it was kind of starting and stopping. We started hosting virtual tasting events, and then when things opened up, we moved outside. So restaurants were moving outside, so we started doing wine dinners in the summer and the fall. So that shifted as well. And then for our e-commerce clients, as people started to cook more at home, what we said was, we need to offer different sizes. So if it's a family of two, they don't need a full size of something. Maybe a family the unit consists of 1 or 2 people. So we started offering different sizes, and then a subscription service, so that somebody could say, okay, I need this once a quarter or once a month. So we expanded that. And I think another thing was education, because I think that's integral to part of our mission. So every order or whatever it was that we shipped or delivered always had either a recipe card or a cooking tip. We learned that you can't assume that everybody knows how to use our products. So that was something that we started creating, or we've created, so that everybody receives that. And then education on our blog, on our newsletter, on our social, we always have a cooking video or recipes that are easy, that are doable, information on organics, and repurposing food and how to reduce food waste. If you're doing if you're using vegetables, what do you do with the stalks and the stems and whatnot? You make it into a smoothie, you put it into a soup. So these are all things that we've learned. These are tips that we learned that we started to share with our consumers. And I think that it's all part of a process that we can learn together. And then people were saying, this is how I'm using your product. I'm putting it into a smoothie. I'm using your vinegar to make an elixir. And so it's been very, very educational for us, because we've also learned from our clients and our partners.
That's really fascinating that they're sharing and creating new methods back to you. So how are you gathering the data? How do you know what they're looking for and what they need, both the consumers and the restaurants? How are they getting that feedback back to you?
They'll tell you, and it's interesting because our e-commerce site at villagraziellaorganic.com, people are very communicative and telling us what we need. Don't you have something that's smaller? Can you do a larger size? And then the restaurants and the independent retail stores, they have an idea. They're listening to their customers as well. And they are if they're good merchants and service people as well, or hospitality people, they will be listening to what their clients need as well. So if they're doing a meal package or a dinner, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we're going to include a small can of something, a small can of olive oil that can be used on the meal and then, for future uses rather than a full-size bottle of something. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I would venture to guess too that your approach in being of service to the end consumer and gathering that information through the wholesaler, the restaurant, is why people want to partner with you. And you see that as a true partnership, which I would encourage all entrepreneurs to always think about, not just whom they're serving, but whom they're serving. Like, what's the next step? Where's the win-win-win? And I think that's when you find this magic. Kudos to you for always being open to that feedback. So what's next for you?
Oh, what's next? Well, we did smaller sizes, and which was interesting because that was a challenge to get those products in from Italy because the transportation, that was a challenge. We had started all these smaller sizes that we had done. For example, in our balsamic vinegar, this is what we had. And then people were telling us they wanted a smaller size for their, as they were cooking for themselves and whatnot. We received all of this later, unfortunately. We were going to have it by fourth quarter, and we didn't receive it until the end of January because of all of the transportation challenges that they were experiencing in Italy. As we were experiencing COVID here, they were experiencing it there as well, and they still are experiencing it. So that has been interesting. It's been a great learning, if you will, lesson that, again, it's just not about what we're doing here in the States, but it's also what they're experiencing over there in Italy, because they still are dealing with that, with the challenges of COVID, which affects obviously farming, production, transportation, getting components, getting the right bottle and getting it on the vessel and shipping it over. So what's next for me? I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. What's next for us is that what we found is on direct-to-consumer wine distribution. People, because they were not able to always go to the store, or maybe going to the store once a week, what we have gotten is, how come you can't ship me wine? And so we're working on that because we see the long-term opportunity for that. We're working on that and hope to be starting to be able to ship within the Midwest in the next few months.
That's very exciting, and I can't wait to sign up. Yeah, I am trying to get outdoors more and work it off, but I will say, like, having a nice glass of wine is such a gift for me. Can you, before we sign off, I want to know what you were like as like an 8-year-old girl. Like, when you were younger, do you feel like right now you've reached into her and like you're pulling out those dreams, and are you fulfilling what you think you set out to do as a young girl when you didn't have all the judgment and the wisdom of experience?
I think that's a great question. That's a wonderful question. I look back, I was always curious. I was always learning. I was always asking why, and got into trouble for that as well. Maybe I was too curious and too active. I consider myself really fortunate to be doing what I'm doing. I knew that I would always work in the back of my mind, because food played such an important part in my family and in our culture, that I would always do something with food, and hopefully with something, with international. So maybe not when I was in 8th grade, but probably when I was already in high school, in the early years of high school, I knew that I wanted to do something with international. Yeah.
Very good. And here you are. And I asked that because I think as entrepreneurs, we often just go, and we say yes to all the opportunities. But if we can get back to the roots of the why we started in the first place and keep in mind the vision of where we want to go as a person, where we are living in parallel to our business, where we're not defined by our business.
Yes.
But it's a huge part of who we are. But speaking from experience, when you have to let go of a business or you sell one, who are you at the end of the day? So it's just something I like to ask entrepreneurs as we cross paths to say, are you being true to you and your true north?
Oh, by all means. I was on this road for organics, and I think that it's only going to get a greater awareness, and it shouldn't be a luxury for any of us. It shouldn't be a luxury, and it is accessible. And I think we as a culture are understanding that now. And as our businesses in hospitality and food service and retail, people are understanding that you can provide a quality, clean product that is accessible, and it shouldn't just be a privilege. So
that's wonderful. A great message. So we wish you the absolute best, Consuelo.
Thank you so much.
I will for sure stay in touch. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to having a glass of wine with you in Chicago when you come next.
I look forward to that as well. I hope it's sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. A presto.